Roll call, please, City Clerk.
Council members Newton.
Here.
Hannah.
Yes.
Bash.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer. Mayor Hoffman.
Yes.
All present.
Motion is needed to add 2 items by urgency in closed session. City Manager?
Actually, adding one item 1 should already been added. Is that correct?
So we've revised the agenda, but I believe we still need a motion to add both.
I don't know the APN number. Is that the APN reference?
Right.
Yes. Then you still need to add it.
Yeah. So we're gonna.
One on the list you still need to add by motion.
I think it's the second one.
He's got the second one
second-
after.
yeah.
and third.
No, okay. The second.
Second? Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hannah, seconded by Councilmember Bash. Roll call. Council members Newton.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Bash. Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer.
Yes.
Mayor Hoffman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Closed session. We're going to reconvene public session. City Attorney?
Yes, the City Council considered in closed session those matters which are listed on the agenda, and there are no reportable actions.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we have Pastor Phil. There he comes.
Good evening, council members. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In for an exciting evening with all these Super Bowl champions I hear. So, exciting night. Why don't we go ahead and open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for our city. Lord, we thank you for the beautiful place we live, and we pray that you would continue to bless our little town, bless the families that live here, and Lord, we pray for our council members this evening, our elected officials. We pray that you would bless them with wisdom and insight and humility as they seek to lead, Lord, our city, and also pursue the good of all of our members. And Father, we also pray for these young champions this evening. We pray, Lord, that you would bless them, that they would understand from their coaches and their family what hard work does, the blessing that hard work is. Pray that they would stay humble and they would continue to work harder next year than even this year. Pray you bless all these proceedings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, Andy, I understand you have Mr. Rios.
Oh, sure. I can take care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. It's my pleasure to introduce you our newest Western Riverside Council of Government Fellowship intern, Michael Rios. Michael Rios participates in the fellowship program, which identifies very well accomplished graduates to provide them. The purpose of the program is to provide these fellows with work experience in local government. As you know, young people these days are not taking up careers in local government. The purpose of this program is to help for those accomplished students to gain practical experience in local governments. So I'd like to say a couple of things about Michael. Michael is a graduate of University of California, Riverside. He graduated from UC Riverside with honors in political science, accumulating 3.83 grade point average. Prior to coming to the city of Norco to do his internship, he previously worked in the city of Rancho Cucamonga Human Resources Department, where he did a lot of analysis, did a lot of help them with recruitment. In his bio, Michael describes himself as He has always maintained a passion for local government and wants to reinvest in his community. This is a way to start that process for Michael. Michael, I don't know if you have a few words to say.
Yeah, just a couple words. I appreciate it. As Andy said, my name is Michael Rios. It's great to be here, guys. I am with the WRCOG Fellowship, and it's been an amazing opportunity for me to be here. I'm actually from Rancho Cucamonga, and I've been here for about 2 months, and it's been a bit of a culture shock, to say the least. But I mean that in the most positive way, because all the people that I've been able to meet and all the conversations that I've been able to have, I think are direct representation of the hospitality and the heart that the city truly has. And I mean, the more I get to learn about this place, the more I truly enjoy it, and I truly enjoy being here. And I really look forward to the opportunity to continue meeting new people, learning more about this community, and being able really to grow and continuously support it. So thank you to the City Council and to the staff for being able to, give me this opportunity and present me up here, and thank you guys.
The other thing I'd like to add is quickly through this program, the city gets about 1,000 hours of Michael's time free of charge. The cost is paid by WRCOG, and that is something that we are very thankful for.
And not only that, but Michael always has a smile when you walk in there, so good to see it. All right. Eric, you can't get away with this one. Come on up here. Where's the rest of your crew at? For those you don't know, I am a retired Riverside County Sheriff's Department employee after 26 years of being with RSO, and so this one comes to heart to me. So you don't have anybody else here with you?
I do. I have Deputy Matt Plotcher.
Come on, Matt. Come on down. You come on. This is for you. You're wearing the green and tan, brother. Come on up. For those you don't know, on January 9th, it was Law Enforcement Day, and since that's already passed, I instructed city staff that, and because we love you guys so much, you've been with us. This is the Riverside Sheriff's Department is the original contract agency for the city of Norco. That's 1964. They've been patrolling our streets. So, proclamation, whereas law enforcement officials of every rank and file have chosen a profession that puts their lives on line every day for their communities, they've answered a call to public service that is demanding and often unappreciated. And National Law Enforcement Day, which is celebrated on January 9th every year, is an opportunity to thank law enforcement officials for their service and offer a sign of respect. And whereas the City of Norco recognizes the extraordinary men and women for their dedicated service, courageous deeds, and sacrifices in keeping our community safe, enforcing the rules of the law, and responding to times of crisis. And whereas it is important that Norco residents know and understand the duties and responsibilities of the Norco Sheriff's Office and necessity of cooperating with them in maintaining law and order. And whereas it is fitting to honor and thank law enforcement officials in the City of Norco for the entire month every year, while recognizing their dedication and service to our community. Therefore, I, Ted Hoffman, Mayor of the City of Norco, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of January as Law Enforcement Appreciation Month, because we're not going to give you just one way. We're going to give you all 31 of them. Thank you, guys. You got to get something. You can't walk out of here that easy.
I got it, Matt. You don't have to worry about it. I want to thank everybody. Most people know by now, I'm going into my 4th year of serving this community. And during the 90s, I was here for 4 years as a patrol deputy. I'm going into my 28th career of serving with the Sheriff's Department. I got to tell you, Norco is a fantastic town filled with fantastic people. It is an absolute pleasure for me to serve this community. And the reason that this is such a nice place to live is because of the people that are here. And I want to thank you for your support, because it's very important to us. And I will always say that the citizens of Norco make this town what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, a picture. Oh, got that. Normally, we'll have all our other council people come up here to help me on this, but I think it's going to get pretty full up here. Jeff, right? Brian, come up here. I want you to, since you probably know all the ins and outs of what has happened to Jeff and what these young kids have done, Super Bowl champions.
Well, Norco Junior All-American program is a major part of this community. We have a lot of children, or young adults, I should say, going all the way up to midgets, actually participate in this program. And every year between the Junior All-American kids who are participating and playing, as well as the cheerleaders, there's anywhere from 400 to 500 kids participating, and a lot of parents involved with that. Well, these young men did something very unique. And I know because I've coached down in Junior All-American football, and although I made it to the Super Bowl, I never won a Super Bowl. So that in itself is quite an honor for these young men who have not only went through their whole season, but made it through the playoffs, continued to play, go through the playoffs, and then ultimately playing in the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. It's a feat that many want to do, many try, but many do not accomplish. So for you young men, and I want to recognize cheerleaders too, because they're a big support part of each team out there, along with all the coaches and parents. They their accomplishment it's quite. And by the way, Southern California Junior All-American program, which is that division that covers a huge perspective of communities and cities throughout this region of Southern California. So to just make it through your league and qualify to go to playoffs, but then yet get through the playoffs and actually win the Super Bowl, you have competed against a lot of communities and towns throughout this southern section of California. So quite an achievement, and for all of you, well done. Thumbs up, man. I can't believe it. Excellent. Very good. And I see a lot of smiles there, so let's give them a big hand.
All right, with every bunch of players, it can't be done without a bunch of good staff and coaches and their parents. And I see a lot of parents and grandparents in here. So kids, turn around. You got to let your
Mr.
pictures.
I want to make one more comment. Undefeated, right?
Undefeated.
Undefeated.
All right, coaches.
If they won the league, went on the cliff, they went undefeated. So. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So that I don't butcher these kids' names up, and for one thing, I'm going to bring the coaches all up, so we're going to stand behind me in this podium. So head coach, Chris Carranza. Assistant head coach, Gabe Ritchie. Assistant coaches, Ruben Raya, Jacob Liebert, Javier Hernandez. Team head athletic director, Shauna Stable. Assistant athletic director, Tammy Schwartz. Team medic, John Kale. And the team mom, and the most important person of all these is the team mom, Debbie Carranza. All right, Coach Carranza. So I don't want to butcher these kids up.
Oh, me neither. Me neither. I don't know my last name. Don't expect me to say it first. And they had to have a helmet on so I know their face.
So we're gonna, and who's in charge of cheer? We're gonna make them come up here.
Chrissy.
Christy?
Ricky. If she's not here.
Okay.
Her husband's here.
All right.
So they can be in charge of cheer today.
All right. We'll start with the girls.
Okay.
Okay, because we're that way. We're gonna let the ladies first. All right.
All right.
So what we have is certificates for all of them. I'm going to let the cheer coach, Dad. Is that right? Is that good enough?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and tell us who the girls are.
Okay, we got, first of all, it'll be Lily Cano. And then Sister Kayakano. Next up would be Priscilla Marquez. Not here, not here. Gabby Ricky. And Ellie Schwartz.
Good girl. Yeah, meet them. What we've done as a city is, for all they do, we give these appreciation certificates to these kids. And so we appreciate everything they do. As a Norco High graduate, I expect to see you kids playing in a couple years over at the high school and continuing the tradition, okay? You girls too. We're going to continue the tradition and cheer. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Yes, sir. We'll start moving them out. Wow. I'll hand them out and send them out.
Okay. Give them their numbers. You can tell them what position they played if you remember.
I'll let you hand them out. Oh, I remember.
Oh, you better remember.
We can tell them.
All right, we'll go in order. Here you go. First up, Jacob Bracamonte. This is actually my second year with Jacob. This is my left tackle. Good kid. Thank you, sir. Come here. Go back on. Go back on.
Get back on line.
Maximo. Hey, no. Hey, no. This was Max's first year playing football, and he started at outside linebacker after about the second game and just killed it all year.
All right.
Did a great job.
All right.
This was a little special to me. Cameron Carranza. Here's my quarterback and starting corner. Did an all right job, I guess. Love you, buddy. Joseph Clay. When you come up here. Put him in order. Clay, first year player. And he ended up playing linebacker spot. Was actually a good kid, very coachable.
Yeah. Hi.
Parker Coven. Parker was my all-around kid, my do-it-all. I asked him to get it done. He got it done. He also scored the game-tying touchdown in the Super Bowl that put us back in the game right before half and gave us our momentum to go on to win that game, right? That's right.
He's got a smile on the board.
Andrew Hernandez. This is my starting center, and I got to tell you, this is my second year with him at my starting center with him and my son, and the hard work that him and his brother put in this year, coming into this year, was night and day because he did an outstanding job, and center's a hard position to play at this level. Good job, brother. Yeah. Bert Joss is not here. Unfortunately, he moved away to Colorado, but he was my neighbor, and it was his first year playing, and he was one of my tight ends and my defensive tackles, and he absolutely killed it. Great kid. Matthew Libbert. Libbert is, I'm sorry, I skipped one, but Libbert here scored our game-winning touchdown in our Super Bowl, and there was a game where he put us on our back, on his back, because we couldn't get nothing done against Chino Hills. He scored both touchdowns and made probably about 36 tackles, and did it all for us. He's a great kid. Jake Kale. He was one of my offensive linemen. Great kid. His dad and mom both helped out. She fed me Himalayan salt one time and I cramped up on the sideline. It hurt. But good kid. Great kid. Started on offensive line. Played a little bit of defense for us and did a great job. Thank you, sir. Chase Mahoney. He was my starting free safety. And after the Super Bowl, I went back and watched all the film. And this kid probably had about 13 game-saving touchdown tackles. I mean, literally, he was tackling kids by shoelaces, and they were going down. In the Super Bowl, he saved probably 3 first downs and 2 touchdown runs, easy, no doubt, all guts. Great kid. James Nigbor. James is one of our twins from the team, and his brother played last year, and he didn't. He's a baseball player, but he played this year, and I tell you, this kid is a monster. Between him and his brother growing up in Norco, their names are going to ring out for a long time because they are monsters. They do work, and they play defense, and for a first-year kid, watch out. Watch out. Eddie Nigbor. Let me tell you something about this kid.
He's the quiet one?
He's the quiet one, yes. But the kid who had to block him every game on offense when he was defensive end, I felt sorry for every game. Either he was getting picked up and thrown back, or knocked on his back, or was just being left in the dust as quarterback was getting hit. And it was bad. And it was awesome. And he did a great job. Kale and Reyna. This one here is special to me, man, just because I didn't think I was going to have him on my team. But when I got him, I knew what I was getting because I saw it from the very beginning. For the first time I saw him in spring training when we were doing all our drills and stuff. And the kid is all guts, all ask. Coach, you need me to do this? Coach, you want me to do this? Coach, you need me to do this? It's never once come out of his mouth that I can't or I won't. It's always I will. And it's awesome. And did a great job. Brighton Ricky. As you know, his dad's my assistant head coach, but just like his dad, he's a good guy. He's a good kid. He listens, does what you ask him to do. Played running back and outside linebacker for us. Had one mistake I still want to yell at you about, but it's all good. But he made up for him. Everything that he gave us this year was a positive. Always positive. Always want to do the right things and cheering his guys on. Great job. Ethan Schwartz. He was one of my offensive linemen. I didn't have to get on him too much every now and then, but anybody he was blocking, they were out of the way. And they were out of the way in a hurry, and he did a great job for me. Thank you. Mr. Bill, Landon. This by far was my best offensive lineman. I got him on film just one time making a mistake. That's a simple mistake, and he knew it, but every time we ran to his side and every time I put the ball to either side of his hip, it was going for some yardage and it was going for a gain because he did his job. Thank you. Jack Verdugo. Jack played a little bit of defensive tackle for us, did a good job. I got some good film of him. I got to show him of him busting through some lines and causing a fumble, hitting the quarterback one time. When he's focused, he's ready, and he gets on. He does a great job. Thank you, Jack. Brody Wilson. Brody was a first-year player. Took him a while to catch on. Never gave up. Always wanted to try. Always learn. I put him at defensive tackle, and that was my mistake. If I had put him at safety, he was tackling the biggest kid on our team at the last practice of the year. Yeah, I'm gonna call you out. He got you.
I call him Eddie.
He got him. No, he got him. But it was awesome, and he's a good kid. He's a great teammate, and his team first for all these kids. So, thank you, Brady. Appreciate it.
Do you want to get pictures for the kids who are standing up here?
Yes, please.
Just go ahead and let's get, and I know parents, this is your opportunity to get these kids coming up there.
Sure, the girl front.
Oh, yeah, get the girls out in the front. All right, look towards that way, and when you guys grab, go. I don't need to be in here. You guys get up here. All right. Get in here. It's important. Out of your face.
I want to give a shout out to my parents. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Without y'all, it don't happen. We're looking. That's great. We're out. We need pizza.
Thank you. Thanks, Coach. All right, I got.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you. as these kids get out of here, just one of the things, this starts their Norco career. And for those of you that are not familiar, Norco High School, when those kids come out, we got a lot of football players and athletes that come up here that go to the big NCAA schools. So Coach Carranza and your staff, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. Keep feeding Coach Chastain, because we like winners here in town. All right. Thank you.
I'll see you next year.
All right. I like that. All right.
Turn up. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Yes, Evan. Thank you. Have a good night.
Scott. Come on. I know. You know, I love these. You notice how the coaches and staff keep these kids in line? That was so nice and disciplining them. You guys are doing a good job. You want to come up here, Brad? Come on up. You're part of it. You sure? All right, don't hide.
We have two, don't we? Okay.
It's two for the same. It's yeah. Okay. You got this?
You need this. I'll hang on to that just in case I need it.
All right. Go ahead, Scott. You got it.
Okay.
You got
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. If I can have Nicole Hansen come up to the podium here, along with anybody that's with her, part of the crew. Come on up. We've got a cord on this side, so come around over this side. Perfect. Good. How are you doing?
Good. I like your top.
Thank you. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott DeRosa. I'm the Vice Chair of the Economic Development and Advisory Council for the City of Norco. And on behalf of the City Council, I'm here to go ahead and announce the recognition for, and I have to look at this because I have a hard time remembering things, the Hidden Valley Golf Course, or Golf Club, and Villa Amalfi Restaurante. Did I say it right? I get worried when I see that name because it's hard, tongue twister for me. Yeah, right.
He doesn't like marinara sauce.
Oh, my secret's been given away. I don't like marinara sauce, so. But they have terrific food other than that.
Remember that.
Anyways, we're here to recognize them. Villa Amalfi Restaurante was founded in 1990. Located on 6th Street in Corona originally, Nicole Hansen brought the restaurant to the Hidden Valley Golf Club about 9 years ago. During these past 9 years, they've built a reputation for the golf club and the restaurant as being a great place for golf and to dine. Because of their dedication to their business, the business has flourished, enabling them to remodel and expand their facilities to include expanding the restaurant to seat at least 300 people, remodeling the clubhouse with beautiful rustic atmosphere, and adding a full bar. So the City of Norco wants to recognize the Hidden Valley Golf Club and Villa Amalfi Restaurante for dedication to investing in Norco, making Norco a more inviting destination for all of our visitors. Thank you very much. All right, so we got 2 awards, one for the restaurant and one for the golf club.
I'll take the restaurant.
So there's the restaurant.
Thank you.
And here is for the golf club, and I'll read what that says on both of them. And if you will say a few words afterwards. So the certificates or recognition says City of Norco honors Hidden Valley Golf Club and Villa Amalfi Restaurante for their hospitality, investments that enhance the community's quality of life and make Norco an inviting destination for visitors. If you could say a few words.
I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Rios said, that I was not born and raised in Norco. I married in. And it was the best decision I've made. It has been an absolute pleasure doing business in the city and meeting so many new people with the same values that I have. And I hope that I can continue to do business and be a part of the community. And thank you very much.
You want to at the club? No. All right. Cheryl, you need to. All right, picture. We'll go up in front of the podium.
To the front here.
You dress better than me anyway. Thank you, Scott, and thank you for the Economic Development Committee. When people say we need good restaurants in town, VL Malfe's, got the Field House down there, Steakhouse there, the Black Horse, we have, and a bunch of others, we have good restaurants in town. You just got to find them. All right. Having those kids up there was kind of fun. All right. Okay, we're moving right along. City Council business. City Council communications reports on regional boards and commissions. Berwin, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a busy month already, busy new year. I'll start out with the RTA. Again, this year I'm going to be the chairman of the committee for the Budget and Finance Committee. And RTA launched a new bus route Sunday a week ago. It's a bus that goes to Disneyland and back. It's $3 each way. I understand they had a full bus on it that day, that Sunday when they launched the route, but it's a good deal. It starts in San Bernardino and goes all the way to Disneyland, and it takes about an hour and a half maximum, they say, and it'll be a good deal. It might take a few cars off the road. People want to go to Disneyland, they can ride for $3 each way, and they don't have to pay to park and all that and fight the traffic. Also, next Monday, they're going to launch a new route from, or they're going to extend it. It already goes from Temecula to Corona, but they're going to go from Temecula to Orange, the city of Orange, and it's just a regular bus route. It's number 205. You can find it on the RTA schedule. And in December, for the holidays, they had the 25-cent bus ride again for students that had a student ID card. They could ride anywhere they wanted to, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And this year, during that period, there was 14,000 students took advantage of that price. That's countywide, wherever RTA goes, and it's 48% increase from last year, so that's a popular deal. They do the same thing in the summer for the kids to get to the beach and back. And moving on to RCTC, they're getting ready to start a lot of construction on the 15 freeway widening project, as you know, and they've been working for a couple of years down in the river bottom, and RCTC is really cooperating with horse groups in Norco during this construction period, let them know where the trails are going to be closed, and they're fixing detours and stuff for the riders in Norco to go, and they're trying to be careful not to get anybody hurt, so we appreciate that. And with Vector, we have our meeting tomorrow, and I'm the chairman of the board for this year for that commission. And the only thing I can say is that West Nile is still around, so we had rain dump all your extra water containers around so we don't raise mosquitoes, because out here in this part of the world, the mosquitoes never go away. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Berwin. Robin?
I was able to attend the League of City meeting with Berwin in Rancho Mirage last Monday, and our guest speaker talked about the telescope that's being put in at the library at Rancho Mirage as another service to their residents, so that was interesting. And then as far as like League of Cities and what the purpose, I think for me it's to get to know other council people across the county and to make connections, and then obviously as a body to try and impact legislative policies and things like that beyond Norco. So that is what I did last week.
Thank you. Kevin?
I had WRCOG on last Monday. Really nothing to report other than there's, I don't know why, continued turmoil over some of the programs there, and I'm not really sure why. RCA was also there, and again, really nothing to report. Kind of mundane meetings. I did go to the Veterans Memorial meeting on Monday. I was the only council person there. Ted had to go somewhere else. We did vote to add a new name to the Wall of Honor on Memorial Day. A Vietnam veteran who died of Agent Orange just recently. Horrible death. And we are proceeding step by step to continue towards the MIA POW Memorial, and we're just waiting now for the renderings to begin to fundraise for the Blue and Gold Star mothers. Went to the Chamber of Commerce meeting today. It was really packed over at Silver Lakes. A lot of people had never been there, and they were very impressed. The stuff they're building out there, if it goes through, is going to be pretty amazing. A lot of scholarships and things going out of there. And then tomorrow we meet with the Navy. A lot of you know that on February 2nd we appeared before the State Historic Preservation Commission, and there's been a huge switch. And we just got the staff report on the staff and the State Historic Preservation officers supporting our claim strongly. We also have 2 former SHPOs supporting us, and we have, ironically, the person who was head of the ACHP, when they didn't support us, actually wrote a 5-page letter supporting our nomination. So we're pretty lucky about that. Also, the regional head of the American Legion also wrote a letter on behalf. One of the things that I'd forgotten to even tell him is that the first wheelchair basketball game in the public was actually against the American Legion team. We have top preservation people that are writing letters. We did get a letter of opposition from the Navy. No matter what they say, there was testing equipment out there. The base was significant. They actually say the base was not significant. And then the prison sent a very strange letter, said they will get back to us later, but they disagree with the finding. Tomorrow, the meeting, what I'm hoping is, the funny thing is we've actually learned that there's some people that just, it's out of their control, and they're actually on our side, but they can't say it. So I'm learning to be nice to them and not so nice to the people that are hidden in the bowels of San Diego. But tomorrow, we're basically going to say, what are you afraid of? I mean, it doesn't change anything. The truth of the matter is we're very reasonable. We've never said we're trying to save every stick of property out there. There's, believe it or not, on the Navy base right now, other than the Narconian base, there's only about 5 buildings we're trying to save. That leaves them another 20 that literally they could do whatever they wanted to do, but they have it in their mind. And quite honestly, I'll say this publicly, their response is embarrassing. They clearly, the Section 106 statutes of Bulletin 15 are very clear, and they work very hard to make them not clear. There's not a single argument that can't be met, and unfortunately, it takes hours for Bill Wilkman and I to answer these things. And we really resent it because it's the same argument over and over again. But I anticipate we're going to get the Navy base put on the National Register, and we will then lobby to, or not lobby, but ask them to do a programmatic agreement. And I think they're going to be shocked when we walk through it, and they're going to go, yeah, we're not worried about that building or that building. Can you put up a plaque maybe for that building? But we get that you need a new building there. So I'm pretty excited about that, but we'll see what happens. We've been here before. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Kevin. Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Beginning of January, I attended the Chino Basin DeSalter board meeting, and for some reason they decided this year I'll be the chairperson. So I know it's scary, but I'll guarantee you we'll have water. Anyways, just a quick project summary. What we accomplished to date, 11 different projects have been completed. We have 4 projects in construction and startup, and 1 project in design. And the 1 project that's in design, of course, is the Santa Ana River crossing. And our total project cost is going to be approximately about $152 million on those projects. And the last item I have was this last Saturday, along with the rest of council, we were able to attend the Hall of Fame Awards banquet at Stacy Turner's. And gosh, I think they inducted maybe 15 people to the Hall of Fame this year.
A bunch of new people I never seen before. It was great.
So it was real good. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. I'm going to defer my time over to Brian. As a member of the NART team, very proud of the of what being included with the 20th anniversary of the League of Agricultural and Equine Centers. And these are people from all over the United States that came to Norco. And when we partially hosted the event, and I'm going to let Brian do it, but I was really proud, Brian. I thought we, as a NART team, we did a good job in their demonstration, and hopefully we enlightened them on it and what we do. But I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it was quite an event. The League of Agricultural and Equine Centers came to California. They actually stayed in Ontario. However, the annual Footing Academy, which is a 2-day school, was held at George Ingalls Equestrian Event Center. There were 23 states represented from around the United States at the Footing Academy and Symposium. The Footing Academy it brings all of these various equine type facilities to talk about various types of footing, and it actually is a classroom setting, and at the end of the thing you actually have to physically take a test to pass that class, and our staff were part of that. We actually have 4 people who went through the certification program. The certification program is put on by Bob Kaiser. Bob Kaiser is probably, if not one of probably the top 5 people related to footing throughout the United States. He's called upon not only in the United States, but they do work out of the United States. One of their bigger clients is in Brazil now. So they do work both internationally and locally, as well as overseas. And their whole objective is to investigate, determine your footing, and they do this for all various disciplines in the equine world, from hunter jumpers to barrel racing to gymkhana, dressage, cutting, pinning, all of the various disciplines you would see. They actually have identified footing, grooming techniques for all of that. So it was a really good opportunity for our staff to get training and certification from the best there is. They also design equipment. They're one of the top engineering groups that design equipment specifically for arenas. The one caveat to this is that we also get our dirt tested. So they tested our dirt, and we actually did pretty well. We do have some problems with our sand, and we're going to need to be adding some sand. They don't like the sand we use, and it was amazing how the molecules attach to clay and silt, and how it really changes that footing if you use different sand. And in the test that they did for us, it really changed our footing and made it what we call a one footing, and meaning that our arena has to be a lot of different things, our footing does, and it allows us to do it. So I'll be working with Andy on that budget item later in the year, but it does add a lot to your event. And the bottom line is, if you have great dirt, they will come. And that is the key. And I know that sounds bad, but and the strangest thing is your dirt can wear out. So anyway, so it was a great education for our staff, and a great opportunity to be able to work with professionals throughout the United States. The second part of this was a symposium that held a variety of different classes and educational platforms for those who run equestrian facilities, conference centers, and that type of thing. And so the symposium was excellent, and we were able to host a couple of things, because a lot of equine centers throughout the United States, don't necessarily have people on staff, or if there is an incident where an animal goes down, to be able to respond quickly. We have that. NART actually performs at all of our, or are there for all of our rough stock events, as well as some of our other type of events. And the NART did an actual classroom presentation, and then actually they bused everyone to Ingalls for a demonstration in our arena that NART did in. They got to showcase all of the various apparatuses and things that they do, and get a chance to talk to the NART team and look at that. Part of that demonstration that evening also included a variety of different manufacturers and their equipment to showcase what their different parts of equipment can do for your arenas. But it was interesting talking to a lot of different people about what they do, how they got started, and how important that is. Ted and the team did a great job of showing a video of when you do it right, how it can be done very quickly, efficiently when a horse goes down in an arena, is injured, and done in a way that is respectful to everybody. And when you see an incident that happens, the way those people come into an arena and operate is the key to keeping the crowd calm, and getting people to realize that in that particular sport things do happen, but how you do it. And I thought NART did a great job. It actually made me very proud of where NART started and where it's come, because it's really neat to see various institutions throughout the United States come to you and go, wow, what an achievement. And the other part of this was to see Norco, and they bust into Norco twice, and to actually see our city, our trails. We are very definitely a very unique community. This lifestyle that here is in Norco, and how it's been preserved, is very unique, and that comment was echoed many, many times. We also conducted a classroom thing where both Patty and I discussed risk transfer, which is a real important part of what we do when you run an event center or events in general. And we do a lot of various events, not just at the center, but how you use that to transfer that risk, and it dealt with insurance. And so it was a good opportunity to talk to the various people in the symposium, but also to get feedback on how other people do that. And then the last thing is that then they bus to Silver Lakes, and they got a chance to visit Silver Lakes and had a reception there, and understand where Silver Lakes is going, both in their equestrian use and maybe in the future, and to also look at an event center and how it uses its facilities such as soccer and equine and other special events, and how it does. Most of these event centers, even though they have an equestrian component, they do a lot of variety of different things, from car shows, concerts, agricultural shows. So it was a really good opportunity to see them. The probably biggest issue I heard is that everyone wants to stay in California because the weather back east is pretty cold right now. The gentleman from Wisconsin, it was minus 12. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, it was 3 degrees. Pennsylvania, Ohio, it was in the minuses. No one wanted to leave, and I actually talked to a gentleman out of Houston, and when he got off the plane, he said, I should have brought my shorts and flip-flops. Is it like this all the time? And I said, well, not all the time, but pretty close. So they were very happy to come to California. In fact, we actually, one of the tours also included the LA Equestrian Facility, and we got a chance to look at how they operate and a lot of the things that they do there, including one of the unique things that I found that they're doing, which they've invited us to take a look at, is they take and how they compost all of the manure that they receive on site. And they've been very innovative in how they've done that. And so I think it would be worse since we have those discussions going on. It'd be a great trip with Waste Management to actually take a look at it too. So, and they actually did a seminar with a consultant from Washington related to waste manure to energy. And so I brought back some good information to share with both Chad and Andy and the council later on. So it was a really good event. It was a great showcase for Norco.
Thank you, Brian. And Scott, I did give kudos to CAL FIRE, just so you know, all the time. Because we couldn't put NART on and we couldn't do what we do without CAL FIRE. And definitely the trucks were there, so we didn't forget about you guys. Appreciate it. I even give kudos to Chief Hawkins. But one of the things that I wanted to, and Brian touched on everything, Steve Stallworth, who is the arena director from South Point Arena and runs the big South Point Arena. Him and I have got to know each other over the years. Very impressed with our facility for our little town. The fact that we have that arena up there, and that's coming from a man that's works one of the premier facilities and has also the Thomas and Mack along with the MGM and the Old Orleans Arena. So he was very impressed with us and thought, wow, you guys do good. So I just wanted to make everybody know that we're proud of our little town and what we do. All right. So continuing on, I'll move on to.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt, but one more thing on NART, and I forgot about this because we didn't have a meeting last month or last week. But each year the LA Equestrian Center, about 3 days before the Rose Bowl parade, they host, it's on national television on RFD TV, they host the Equest Fest. And what that is most of the horses that are participating in the Rose Parade, they have to come and perform in the arena up there before a national television audience, so the people in the world will know that the horses can do something besides walk down the parade route. So the guy that's been in charge of the horse ambulance every year over at that event, he retired, and one of the ladies in one of the drill teams here recommended us, and they contacted us, and so 6 of us took our horse ambulance and part of our equipment and went over that day and stood by in case an animal got hurt, because they have like probably, I want to say 250, 300 animals. They had 3 stagecoaches from Wells Fargo, the Budweiser team, and they're all out there in that parking lot in the barn area. Then they let the audience go out and see them after the deal. So we hung around until it was all over in case an animal got injured. But it was quite a deal to get invited to go over that, and they treated us really well. And I'm sure that talking to that guy last night or yesterday from the LA Equestrian Center, that he was the chairman of that committee, I'm sure they'll have us back over there next year. So we really enjoyed it.
Good job. Yeah, George likes us, so that's good. All right, now moving on to City Council and consent items. Does anyone have anything to pull?
I do.
Kevin?
C.
C?
E.
E?
And L.
No, it's Greg, not Kevin. Okay.
Yeah, it's Greg.
Okay.
I wanted to pull I.
I.
And L also.
Okay. Berwin, you pull? Robin? No. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the rest? Moved and seconded.
Motion and a second, please vote. The motion passes unanimously.
Ready? And Greg, you pulled C?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, this is the recap of the Planning Commission meetings, and I wanted to compliment Planning Commission and staff. This was in regard to item C, the conditional use permit for the Wood Springs Hotel, that staff did a great job thinking out of the box and was able to add horse trailer parking back by the retention basin to increase our equestrian use, and that also the Architectural Review Committee kind of held these boys to the task and with architectural elements, so I think it's going to be a good-looking facility, and it should be very successful. So I just wanted to compliment Steve, you and your commission on a professional way to handle that project. That's my only comment on that item.
Any other comments? Move to approve then?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, please vote. That motion passes unanimously.
And Greg, you also pulled E?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I don't want this to become a pattern, so this is in regard to the bids for the monument sign. And Chad, there was just a couple of things. First wanted to compliment you on your bid analysis. It's the way I like to see it, so that was well done. And I was just going to ask if you would, RKA did the design on this, and so I started fooling with their drawings. I believe we could, I'd like you to ask RKA to look at some of their structural details. I believe they could be lightened up a little bit in regard to concrete steel, that there's a possibility for a little bit of value engineering. Well, there is a possibility for value engineering on some of the structural detailing. So I was going to ask if you would present that to RKA and your contractor. And then if you would, the money that you save on the value engineering, would you please paint that existing block wall that is multicolored all the way down North Avenue one consistent color? And with that, I'll make a motion for approval.
Just a question.
No, go ahead.
My understanding is, though, it's not our wall, because we talked about maybe putting murals on that at one point.
I'll have to verify whether or not it belongs to the adjacent.
Terry Bukowski told me that we can't paint it because it's not our wall.
Well, I'd have to verify the fact,
Okay.
but
Yeah, let us
we'll
know.
verify that as far as ownership, et cetera, but we'll verify
That's
that.
all.
I do want to clarify, just so you understand, as far as value engineering, et cetera, RKA was assigned this project. They pretty much just outsourced it to the same engineer who did the design on the existing monument sign. So we'll certainly engage them to talk to them about whether or not there's any areas that could be modified and do any cost savings.
Well, if you'd like to have Dominic call me, I could certainly point him out to him. And my comment on that wall, regardless if it's owned by all those property owners, it faces the street, and the city's been painting over the graffiti when it gets tagged. So there's approximately 5 different colors on that wall. Do I need to say anything more?
Which one do you
Okay.
Yeah.
The neutral color.
Anybody else? No. Greg?
No. Motion to approve.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion and a second, please vote. That motion passes unanimously.
And Kevin or Greg, I know I was pulled. I think I both you on that one.
So, Greg, I just want to make sure that Greg, I'm sorry, Steve, what our concern was is that what we're experiencing at the Stater Brothers is that all of a sudden it was up higher. I want to make sure that what we have here, because it looks like you've solved that pretty well, in your opinion, yeah?
Yes.
But how do we make sure that all of a sudden that over the counter it goes up 4, 5, 6 feet? I want to make sure that is ironclad and that the property owner totally understands that all of a sudden I don't want to drive over there and all of a sudden I see the thing up in the air. Is there a way that we can put that throughout the contract, or just make sure that, and I believe they understand it, and unfortunately you're being rubbed with the cloth from the Corona side over there.
Yeah, with the condition, the way it's been rewritten, each resident, where there's back-to-back residential properties, each one's going to have minimally a 6-foot block wall to block the view into the adjacent property.
Okay, but there won't be a 6-foot wall and then a hill that goes like this?
No. Nope.
And how do we make sure that when there's a new staff there, or if they ever build it, let's say there is new staff, or there's somebody new at the counter, how do we ensure that absolutely it will be built this way?
On the map that you were given in your packet, it shows it shows the cross sections on each side of the property, and that's basically what it's going to be. So anybody in the future looking at the final map and final grading is going to look at those exhibits to know how the walls are going to be built.
Well, I guess I'd like to see something stronger, because we had a very similar map to that on the Stater Brothers, and they said, well, it's too expensive to get the dirt off. I don't really know the whole story, but I really want to make sure that it's built the way to protect those neighbors. I love the project. It's a great project.
Yeah, and the map in question will be higher than the adjoining properties, which is shown in those cross sections. So the walls on those properties will be at the top of slopes, so they're not going to be looking down into the neighboring properties.
Right, I understand.
And so
my concern is I just want to make sure it gets built the way we're approving it. That's all. I just want to emphasize that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Greg, I think you had. Did you also question? Okay. Any other further questions? Okay.
Motion to approve.
You have a first and a second?
Yes, motion and second to approve. Please vote. That motion passes unanimously.
Okay. And item L, extension of the escrow period.
Thank you, Mayor. This one I have some concerns on, that this extension of the escrow period with Newcastle. Going over the amendment to this agreement for purchase and sale and the closing date extensions, that now they're asking for an additional year of extension with Fish and Game, and if this is the habitat for the Sands fly. The way that's written to me, it seems that if a fly is found on that property, they'll be able to walk away from this deal. And I may not be quite understanding it attorney-wise, but something in my gut tells me under the recitals, I just don't like the way that extension is written. And the other point of this is, on a year ago tomorrow, so January 18th, 2017, we entered into this agreement for purchase and sale on this property. We then extended the escrow to December of 2017. And we supposedly hired a realtor to assist us and the property owner going through all the entitlements on the sale of this property. And just for the audience, this is a surplus property back from 2007, and it's 3 acres right at the 15 and the 60 that was originally used for water production. So I think what we need to do is tell these guys, or my feeling is, let's sell the property. I don't see a reason to extend this for another year for them to further investigate entitlements that they've already had a year to do, plus one extension.
I'm going to let the city manager, the city attorney. And I know, Kevin, you had a question on too.
I just, to me, it reads like this is just a stall technique.
What we have is extension for 1 year. Keep in mind, this property is, the city has been trying to sell this property since 2008. This is a landlocked property that is underneath Edison power lines. The two previous times that we've went out to try to sell this property, there were no buyers. Obviously, because of this current buyer is trying to use this property as part of a bigger distribution center that they are trying to build in the city of Eastvale. And to do that, they have to overcome some environmental issues pertaining to the property. At least from my perspective, is they have been granted extension a couple of times, and unfortunately they have not completed that due process with respect to the environmental. The broker that was hired to help the city market this property, they didn't have any responsibilities in terms of securing entitlements. That's not part of their role. It is up to the buyer to go to the city of Eastvale to secure the entitlements. And as part of that process, they have to actually overcome some environmental issues. With respect to the way the agreement itself is worded, as I understand it, and the city attorney can chime in on this, is that if escrow does not close within the time that they are allowed to close escrow, then the extra deposits for the extension of the escrow will be the city's money to keep. But obviously, yeah, there will be nothing holding them as far as actually purchasing the property.
What Andy says is correct. Yes, I think.
Just quiet.
Me?
So, and Kevin, I think you had some questions on it.
My question was along the same lines. It's taken quite a while, but I'm also aware that we haven't been able to sell it. I was thinking more of like a 6-month extension, but it just seems like, and also I'm kind of wondering if you should, I mean.
Yeah, I read the documents pertaining to the environmental work that they have to do. They expect that is going to take till at least September 1 of 2018 for that environmental, with respect to this fly survey that they have to do to complete. With that being completed, they will have additional 3 months basically to finish the entitlement process through the city of Eastvale.
We're just kind of waiting around for them. How much is in escrow in the account?
I believe the initial escrow was a deposit of $75,000, but that again is refundable to them, except the additional $5,000 deposit for each extension is what the city gets to keep if that escrow does not close.
How key is that property to their development?
I don't know that fact. I assume is an important aspect of their development. Otherwise, they would probably not be buying it.
I mean, is there a way that maybe we could just say as is and take off $5,000 on the purchase price?
The property is actually being sold as is. That's part of the original escrow.
It's not as is. We're sort of sitting around waiting. I mean, yeah. For a fly.
Unfortunately, I don't know that they will. If the city council does not want to extend the escrow, certainly we can convey that message to them. And
I'm not saying that. I'm just a little frustrated.
The difficulty obviously is that if there were buyers standing in line, it'd be one thing. But if they say no and they walk away, the fly problem still exists for the next guy up. It's just not going to be any faster, unfortunately.
And the likelihood of selling that property without these individuals who are trying to consolidate different properties to build the distribution center is very unlikely. And again, we've been trying to sell this property since 2008.
And Andy, this is the only this is a landlocked property.
It is.
And how many buyers have we had?
This is the only buyer that we have.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, the only discussion that we've had with anybody who's shown any interest at all.
Okay.
Well, I disagree. This is a classic, this is Development 101. This is a classic developer stall technique, and it's basically that they have to get their entitlements from the city of Eastvale. And why should I go ahead and front $500 and some thousand on this property to the city of Norco when I can just ask for an extension for $5,000 while I go through those entitlements with the city of Eastvale? It all falls back onto you operate on other people's money. As far as if there's a fly or not, the mitigation is, it's just a cost factor to the developer. They're not going to have to set aside land or anything else. So it'll just be whatever that Fish and Game wants for money to go away. And my feeling is that time's up. Write us a check and it's your dirt. All I got to say. Thanks.
Is that a motion to reject it then?
My motion would be for the city manager to go back. I guess the process would be to the realtor and the broker.
Yes.
And say no extension at this time.
Well, I mean, the council action is to disapprove the extension.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a separate motion. It's just yes or no on this agenda item.
Yes.
Up or down.
Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
Have a first and a second?
Motion and a second to not approve. Please vote. To approve?
No.
To
Not
disapprove, to
not
not extend.
Disapprove the extension.
Correct? That was your motion?
I thought John changed it.
No.
So we're all in agreement. This is Greg's motion is to disapprove the extension to the period of December 15, 2018.
Yes.
Okay.
Seconded by Councilmember Bash. Please vote. Okay, that motion carries 4-1. I'm sorry.
You said 4-1, Cheryl.
It's 5-0.
It's 5-0.
She's on a different slide.
I voted no on it.
Did you get that, Cheryl?
Yes.
So we're getting a correction on that?
The screens are not connecting. So it is a 4-1 vote with Councilmember Hanna voting no.
Okay, so it's a 4-1 to not extend the contract. Okay.
5 years.
All right, moving on to item 4. Public comments. Cheryl, do you have any cards?
Yes, I do, Mayor. First card is Bonnie Slager.
Hi, Bonnie. Oh, I'm sorry. Happy New Year.
You didn't really want to hear from me.
I did.
I know you're going to discuss districts tonight, but people think of questions after they leave, and so I wanted to invite everybody to the Norco Horsemen's meeting tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Legion, because Andy and Cheryl are going to be talking about districts, and so questions that come up between now and then. And this coming Monday is the next town hall meeting, and I hope everybody will be at the town hall meeting next Monday. And our little trail elves have been out working on California Street, and so California between North and 8th Street, they did quite a bit of work a week ago Saturday, and so there's a little more trail fencing now than there was there, and hopefully we'll get some more up in another couple months. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Well said.
Justin DeWale.
One of the things is Justin, during the town hall meeting, there will also be discussion on districting, so that'll also be a topic. So we're trying to get as much information as we can. I'm sorry, Justin, come on up.
Mayor, Council, good to be here tonight. Justin DeWale from Assemblymember Cervantes' office, just providing an update. The 2018 legislative session in Sacramento has been going on for about 2 weeks now. Assemblymember Cervantes will continue to carry some of the bills she introduced last year in the Senate. That includes AB 162, which will expand the California Competes tax credit program to make more small businesses eligible. AB 91, which will allow any driver to use the carpool lanes on our freeways during off-peak hours to try and ease traffic congestion. And AB 193, which will allow purchasers of used high-efficiency vehicles a rebate. In addition to that, she's also in the process of introducing new legislation for this year. To name a couple of those bills, one of them is AB 1746. Now, this bill will make it easier to prosecute certain crimes related to sex trafficking that occur across jurisdictions. And then there's also AB 1786. This bill will create an articulation platform for the California community colleges to more easily transfer military service to academic credit for veterans who want to attend community colleges. So that's some of the legislation she's working on. We have a couple of upcoming events this Saturday, the 20th. We're doing a backpack drive and school supply drive with the Eastvale Girl Scouts Troop 662. They're going to collect the supplies and donate them to children in need. And we're also hosting another select committee hearing at Norco College. That is going to be Friday, February the 9th. At 2 p.m. and the topic is going to be workforce development. It's entitled Pathways to Employment, Identifying the Nexus Between Education, Career Readiness, and Workforce Development. Assemblymember Cervantes is hosting the hearing along with Assemblymember Autumn Burke from Los Angeles, and we will send out more information as that gets closer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin.
Bill Naylor.
Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Bonnie stole a little bit of my thunder, but I was going to just give you a really quick update since most of the council and community have been pushing to get work done on California. We did get a bunch of trail volunteers out on 2 different days, one afternoon and one morning, and we did work from the area of North to 8th Street on California, and all the fencing has been repaired at this point. We do have interest still from other residents along California, and they are wanting us to continue that trail work on down towards 6th Street, and we will be doing that as soon as I can get some more volunteers together. We had a total of, I think, 7 volunteers show up, 7 or 8 volunteers show up for this last project, and as you know, this Norco DG is very, very tough, and it took us hours to get those concrete post sections out of the ground, but we did do it, and And just so that volunteers or people within the community know, this is all done by volunteers, so if you're at all interested, please step forward and we'll take any help we can get. And that means men, women, boys, girls, I don't care what, because the ladies were the ones that put the fence in and the guys did all the digging, so it worked out really well. I just want to thank all of our volunteers that are putting in those hours to help take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. It looks good on California, guys. I really appreciate it.
Mayor, that concludes public comments.
All right, public comments. And we go to number 5A, public hearing regarding potential district boundaries related to the transition from at-large district-based council member elections. John?
Yeah, this is the third public hearing with regard to potential district boundaries. This is the first meeting where there have actually been maps presented for the community to review and comment on. That's the purpose tonight. There will be a fourth and a fifth before there's any decision made. And so the purpose tonight is just to receive any additional input. We have with us demographer who will take it from here.
Thank you. Hi, this is Dr. Justin. I'm going to Levitt. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Hoffman, members of the council, members of the public who are here tonight for that introduction. I am just going to provide a short overview of why we're kind of in this situation and the two maps that we have for you to look at tonight. I'll emphasize that this is the first time they're being shown publicly, and so there's plenty of opportunity remaining in this process to continue to work to improve the maps. If we could go to the next slide. Just as a kind of situation, maybe for some people it's the first time you've heard about this, but Norco is not alone. Over 80 cities, over 160 school districts have been switching from at-large elections, where voters of the city get to elect the entire council, to district-based elections, in which the city or school district is divided into voting areas, and each sort of like a state assembly or state senate. And it's been going on for about 10 years throughout the state, and you can look at the numbers of jurisdictions that have switched, including just about every city in the Inland Empire at this point. And we can see that on the right-hand column, the cost of not switching. Essentially, no jurisdiction that has ever fought the California Voting Rights Act has succeeded. And many of those jurisdictions that have tried to fight have spent multi-million dollars in the process. These are the settlements. For example, the city of Palmdale settled for $4.7 million, Modesto for $3 million, Anaheim $1.1 million. This does not include what the city spent on their own legal defense. And, because of this, a lot of jurisdictions, a lot of cities have just said, we'll switch for now, and maybe eventually one of these other jurisdictions that has a lot of money to spend. There are several lawsuits going on right now, the city of Huntington Beach, down in Pomona. But as of right now, no city that has challenged it has won. And it's cost a lot of money. And so Norco is alongside just about every other city in Riverside and San Bernardino County with switching. If we go to the next slide. And so the state gives you sort of a 90-day window to make this transition without facing any additional potential lawsuits or litigation. And we held 2 public hearings in 2017 to take comments about communities of interest. On January 10th, these 2 maps, the green map and the purple map, were published. This is the 3rd public hearing. Next Wednesday on the 24th, as well as on February 7th, there'll be additional hearings. And at the hearing on the 7th, you'll be asked to make a selection on the map. This map will be used for 2 elections, November 2018 and the November 2020 election. Then we'll get new census data in 2021, and we'll have to look at the boundaries. We have to look at them, if we go to the next slide, because we're required to follow a set of redistricting criteria, things we have to take into consideration when drawing the maps. And that left-hand column, the federal laws column, is basically what the government requires us to do. Any jurisdiction across the country that uses district elections has to have districts that are equal in population, and this is total population, so not just voters, but anybody under the age of 18 also counts toward this number as well. And we have to follow the requirements of the Federal Voting Rights Act. And so we have to look and see if there's any concentrations of any protected class groups that historically face discrimination, Latinos, Asian Americans, African Americans. And if so, is it possible to draw a district in which they make up a majority? Or if not, is it possible to avoid diluting their voting strength? Now, race cannot be the only or even the predominant factor behind the creation of a district. It must be one of many criteria we consider. And so we go to this the right-hand column, traditional criteria, things that the state has asked us to look into considering as we go through this process. And, you know, these are sort of things we have to balance. And some of them have multiple interpretations, like communities of interest. Communities of interest are areas or neighborhoods that have historically faced issues or problems that are similar. In a city the size of Norco, many times we're going to hear, like, the entire city is a community of interest. We're too small to have districts. And so what we often think about in that case is how do we divide the neighborhoods in such a way as to minimize the impact of district elections on the actual neighborhoods and communities within the city. So that each board member continues to feel, each council member continues to feel like he or she has a stake in the entire city. And so we also look at things such as what roads we can follow, making sure that districts are contiguous, respecting the voters' wishes. Again, this goes back to both the principle of minimizing the impact, as well as the principle that the residents of the city elected a council, and that redistricting should not be used as a way to intentionally remove a particular or target a particular member. We also look at growth. You know, we're doing this 3 years out of the next census, the next redistricting. Where have we seen growth in the past 8 years? Where are we looking at growth in the next 2 years? So if we go to the next slide, in addition to the PDF maps we have today, the paper maps we also have an online interactive map viewer. This is a Google Maps style viewer where you can search for addresses, you can search for locations. There's instructions on there on how to use it. If you're having any trouble, please email. We will be happy to walk you through how to use the viewer. This offers a lot more detail because as you zoom in, you can see more streets, you can see more landmarks. The problem with any paper map is that you're limited by the size it's printed on. This allows you to zoom in and see a lot of detail. You can search in that search bar for any address within the city, and it'll zoom right in there. And that layers box in the upper right-hand side allows you to turn each of the map on and off, or simply put them both on together to see whether you would be in the same district or in both maps we have, or if you'd be in two separate districts. As we continue to add more plans, they'll also be posted to the online viewer as well. So this will be a resource we continue to update, like the city website. So to think about the two draft maps, we'll start by looking at the green map. I mentioned that both maps do fall under the 10% maximum depopulation deviation, and they do meet the legal requirements under the Federal Voting Rights Act. Each of these maps has one district, District 5, that is about 32% Latino by eligible voting population. Each of the other districts is under 20% Latino by eligible voting population. So we have a concentration of the Latinos in that southern neighborhood of the city, and we've kept them together so as to avoid diluting that vote. Now the green map, so both of the maps we're going to look at, and also in addition to that, we also have a district that's about 20% Asian American by eligible voting population, and that's District 4 on the eastern end of the city. So again, we're not looking at majority districts here, but we are looking at specific areas that maybe have a slightly higher Latino population or Asian population than the city as a whole. In addition to that, this map sort of looks at creating sort of a southern district in District 5, a northeastern district in District 2 on the east, District 4, and two districts that go into the western part of the city. In this one, 3 districts touch Hamner. It would be very easy to get that pink district to also touch Hamner as well. So we tried to keep divide the commercial corridors throughout the city as much as possible so that many of you would have many council members would continue to have a stake in that commercial area. And we look at the purple map. The purple map creates a District 1 that really is right along the river, kind of all the communities that back on to the river, the northern end of the city. And that drives a lot of what we're doing here in this version. Again, Districts 4 and 5 continue to have that higher rate of Latinos and Asian Americans respectively. And then District 3, we wanted to show you an option that really kind of kept that southwestern little extension together, that whole piece that juts out from the city at the southern end or southwestern side of the city. And so, these are two options starting point. You can see we've put the election timing on each. On both maps, Districts 1, 3, and 4 would be up in 2020, and 2 and 5 would be up in 2018. And so with that, if we go on to the next slide, tonight this is really about discussion about kind of a first look, a first take at these maps. We're happy to take answer any questions, take any comment, and bring you back something if we can't for next week. We have to have these maps published at least 7 days in advance. We can show you some new ideas next week, but we may not be able to adopt or select a particular map if it's one of the new maps that we bring back for next week, because they need to be available for circulation 7 days before adoption. But we are trying to get feedback and listen, and so even if you're not prepared to give feedback tonight, we do encourage you to continue to email us, continue to discuss this at your local organizations and meetings, and bring back your information as to help us figure out what map would be a good starting point. These districts really are trying to capture different pieces of the city as well. I mentioned commercial corridors. And I just want to mention that this would not be something that Norco would be unique and alone in doing. Other cities like South Pasadena, City of Pasadena itself, have looked at doing districts that do this exact thing. Pasadena wanted to do a map that every district touched Colorado Boulevard, and so they worked to achieve that goal. South Pasadena wanted every district to have as much of a stake in their major commercial street as possible as well. So, thinking about this, thinking about why the city is in this position and what kind of thing would be best for the future of the city. I know the district lines at first glance may be a little elongated, but I wanted to make sure that there's no reason for that, and that's really to keep the different neighborhoods of the city divided between the different districts, so that you have more than one council member you can go to, and more than one council member feels like they have a direct stake in that. Oftentimes there's a fear that that the council becomes very territorial, and what we're trying to do by this is avoid that. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and happy to take any direction.
I have one question, Cheryl. The information that we receive up here on the podium, up here on the dais, from the subject, that's in the minutes and the records for them, for the DNC, for the...
Correct, yes.
Okay, so they have that information. They will get this.
They do have it, and as I get more comments, I do forward that information to the demographer.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Berwin, any questions?
Not at this time.
Robin?
I'll wait until after.
Okay. Kevin?
One, I'm a little concerned that some of the things you're saying are different than the previous consultant we had. So I'm confused, but what I'll do is I'll send an email to get clarification on my questions rather than here. Are we alone in the size of our city in terms of this?
No. Cities as small as Tehachapi, which has a population of about 9,000 once you remove the prison, have received demand letters to change.
How many? What's the population there?
Population here is about...
Population in Tehachapi.
Tehachapi is about 12,000 with the prison, 9,000 without.
Okay. One of the things that I just want to state that I was a little bit off-put by the newspaper article that occurred, because the the way it sounded was like, oh, we're trying to deny minorities the opportunity to vote. Well, that's not the case at all. And the reason I want to say this every meeting is I want people, if they're new, to understand, one, the city of Norco has never had a segregated school. First place, in fact, the first superintendent of schools was actually born in the city of Norco, who was Hispanic in the entire state. We hired the first city manager who was Hispanic in the history of California. I think it's very important that one of the problems we're having is we really can't split our city up. One of the things I have to ask you is that we were told that the Asian population was negligible, and it doesn't really matter. It's so small. I'm also just concerned, just in terms of the gerrymandering bothers me. And I just want to make sure people understand that Norco is actually the epitome of a city that's never had that kind of racism. So the other thing is just as a word of caution, this can be used if we do go to court. I caution you as to what you say at the podium, because one of the things Mr. Schenkman likes to do is look to see what people are saying and use it against us. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg? Just to let the audience know, since this is the third hearing on this, and previously what we had, one of the motions was to, Councilman Bash asked that a couple of council people meet with NDC. Both Mayor Pro Tem Gerrymandering and myself had a telephonic conversation with the city manager, the Doug Johnson from NDC. City manager was present along with the city clerk. So we had that conversation with them, and various points of interest, community of interest were brought up along with the division and that mapping. So we tried to meet that obligation as requested by the other fellow council members. So with that, I'm going to open the public hearing, and do you have any cards?
Yes, Larry Eckhoff.
Evening, Larry.
Mayor, council, staff, this is depressing. It really is. It's disgusting and it's depressing. I just want to say I'm completely opposed to districting, and I also want to say that I'm white. Now, the reason I say that is this article from the Press Enterprise, the reporter's takeaway from this, and I'm quoting him, at the Wednesday session, 10 residents spoke against district-based elections. None spoke in favor. All the speakers were white. That's pretty disgusting. But I'll address it anyway. My wife of 44 years, nearly 44 years, is Puerto Rican, 100% Puerto Rican. And for the Press Enterprise, that means she's an American. We work as a well-oiled team. I'm not saying anything up here that we haven't discussed. So we're a Puerto Rican-German team. We work together. So the question might be asked, why am I up here and not my wife? That's a good question. The answer is simple. She's smarter than I am, because she knows that anything, misstatement that I make, or any statement that I make, and I have a comma out of place, is probably already on Facebook and lambasting me. So that's why I'm up here. So I'm going to move on to the next thing. Our own Jody Weber said you cannot actually draw a district in the city of Norco that would be a majority-minority district. That should be the end of it. Why isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
John Casper.
I'd actually like to just yield my time. I just wanted to form an opinion by listening to the presentations tonight. In case I got really riled, I might want to say something, but at this point I'm a little perplexed, and I'll save it for later. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good to see you. You and Nancy. Thank you. Thank you. Former councilman there. Thank you.
Pat Overstreet.
Evening, Pat.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
I brought
my rendition of the district maps, I hope everybody got a little copy, talk about disliking gerrymandering. I mean, I really hate it, Kevin. And I thought, I really need to contribute to this somehow. So I played with it today, and you've got my suggestions in front of you. I took the ruler, and I got my calculator out, and I figured out what division 5 districts would be. It seemed to be on a slant. And the reason why I like this particular version, and I understand those straight lines might get a little squiggly, but we'd still have the districts lined up this way. Because Norco is unique, because there is no highly unserviced and non-represented populations, and it definitely avoids territorial representation. It's a total mix of that the at-large population that we've been servicing. The socioeconomic demographic is split right all through all 5. It takes in both sides of the freeway: newcomers, old-timers, flatlanders, bluffs, and the hills. If you were a representative from Division 1 or District 1, you have part of the river, you've got part of the, District 3, you've got some of the flatlanders, and the Sicilian districts also would be there. And you don't have one particular interest group that you would be servicing. You would be like an at-large representative, because I might live by the river, I might live by the Hidden Valley Parkway or something. So I think, why couldn't we do it if we have to do it? And I'm hoping we don't have to. Split it this way, rather than do the color graph that they've suggested. Split it in 5 linear measurements, and that person elected has to answer to, just like you do, all the at-large populations that are in that channel, or whatever we want to call that, the linear delineation. So I hope you'll think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And I'm going to let Dr. Levitt do the definition of gerrymandering at the end.
Jody Weber.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Hi, Jody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I think we still say that until January 31st or something. I had an opportunity to go through all of the public comments that you've had. I've been present in each of the hearings. Thus far, there's not one resident or citizen of the city of Norco that has expressed an opinion in favor of districts. And so I wanted to at least make that clear for this record, which may or may not be used in litigation. Even once the maps that have been now publicized have been put up, I haven't seen any comments. And again, I'm only looking at the official record. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know what's there. But at least what I have seen in our record, there does not appear to be any support for districts, whether what's being proposed or just changing to district system over at large. Let's see here. There have been some comments that have been made to me, or at least some questions that people have asked me due to my knowledge regarding districts. And as was pointed out again tonight, the location or the residence of individual council members was not one of the traditional criterias for redistricting, or districting, excuse me, I use redistricting all the time. So that was something that was pointed out, is that it appeared that some of those maps distinctly were drawn in such a manner in which each of you are placed in an individual district. At the state level, congressional level, as part of the redistricting process, we were specifically prohibited from actually looking at the resident location of a particular incumbent, either at the Congressional Assembly or Senate district level. So that might be something that we should take a look at again, but I'll just raise that. One other just more technical aspect for the NDC here is I am dissatisfied actually with the population deviation. The ideal population deviation must be less than 2%. 1.89 on green map I contend is unacceptable. As part of the Citizens Redistricting Commission, we were able to draw congressional districts containing 702,000 people, and we did it based on the number one criteria on that federal criteria, which is equal population, one person, one vote. We were able to draw that with a population deviation of 1 person. 1 person in every congressional district. If the Citizens Redistricting Commission can provide a population deviation of 1 person, I believe we certainly can do better than 1.89% population deviation based on our voter turnout, and I would ask that our experts take a look at that, because the population deviation of nearly 1% in District 4 on the green map is unacceptable, so is the 0.83. So I think that we can do much more work in a smaller population of this size. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Mayor, that concludes public comments.
Thank you. Dr. Levitt, I'm going to have you back up here, and maybe you can, first of all, give the definition of gerrymandering, and then if you have any knowledge on Ms. Weber's comments, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, certainly. You know, and I think, you know, the thing is, there's no legal definition of gerrymandering other than specific issues under the Federal Voting Rights Act that the courts have acknowledged that race cannot be the only or predominant factor, but that you could run into trouble if you intentionally divide a cohesive, contiguous racial community. Other than that, the definition of gerrymandering often is a map that you personally don't like. You know, and you know that really is a very subjective definition. Some people would like to say maybe it's for a particular partisan aim or a particular racial aim, but the fact is that there's no legal definition of gerrymandering. Now, I wanted to address the issue of population deviation because Ms. Weber is very correct, and particularly for state and congressional redistricting, the restrictions on population deviation are a lot more tight than they are for local government redistricting. See, and this actually goes back to a series of Supreme Court cases starting in the 1960s, not related to race at all, just relating to 1 person, 1 vote. They actually give you a 10% leeway for local governments, for cities and counties, that they don't provide for states who are doing it for state government or for congressional redistricting. And the reason why is because with small, you know, we have to use whole census geography. That's the other trick here, is that we can't divide census blocks because we can't make assumptions about where people in that census block might live. Do they live on this end of it or do they live on the other end of it? And so 7 people in Norco, or in the city of Norco, 7 people is about, you know, 0.1% deviation. Just 7 people, that's 1 house or 2 houses. You move them and suddenly your deviation is going to increase or decrease by that much. You know, it's actually easier to have smaller deviations the larger you are. With a congressional district of 700,000 people, we can go around the entire edge to find a block that has the perfect number to move. You know, we just need 1 block with 3 people in it to move that. Well, some of these districts only have 10, 15 census blocks in them. They're actually very, very little, you know, because the city as a whole only has about 300 blocks total. The state of California is over 700,000 blocks. I would say that a lot of times this is just, you know, it's an issue with the California Voting Rights Act, that the whole process of districting really, in some ways, really was never set up for jurisdictions this small, which I think goes to Councilman Bash's point. And I think, as you know, I started out with, this is certainly not a situation that the city of Norco would be in, other than the way that the California Voting Rights Act has been used as a tool against, you know, just about every city in your jurisdiction or in your area. Corona switched, Eastvale switched, Harupa Valley, Riverside and Moreno Valley already had districts. Lake Elsinore is in the process of switching. If we look just over the county boundary, Chino Hills, and we go on and on and on, because, there's 60 some odd cities in Riverside and San Bernardino County alone that have made this switch as a result of the demand letter. And I just want to keep emphasizing that because, this is not an ideal situation, for anybody here, I think. But it is a situation that what we've seen is that so far, the way that courts have interpreted it, that if the city were not to do anything, that would put the city at, really large risk. And that risk could be in the multi-million dollar payout. We've seen that cities that have put this on the ballot and voters have rejected it have still been forced to switch to district elections by order of a court. That happened in the city of Whittier, for example. And so these kinds of cases that have come up have, to this point, and we could say they haven't been taken up to the Supreme Court. The federal court system has not gotten particularly involved. And if somebody has $5 million and wants to spend that fighting this, but $5 million will buy a lot of fencing for horses, horse trails, I can tell you that much. And so that's just a situation that I know it's not ideal, but I know a lot of cities around here have found themselves in. The other quote, anything else that you would like me to respond to? Yes, we can't draw a majority-minority district. We can't draw a majority non-white district. But once we're in the process of drawing districts, the Federal Voting Rights Act has two standards. The first is about drawing a majority protected class district, majority Latino district or majority African American district. But the second standard is non-dilution. That if there is a cohesive community somewhere in your jurisdiction that represents a clear neighborhood or clear area, part of the city, then that can't be divided. And that's what we're talking about here, is that in a city as a whole that's about 22% Latino by eligible voters, we can get a district that's about 32% without doing anything but following major roads and major boundaries. And so we have to present that to you at least. Doesn't mean that we have to draw that district exactly as it is like that. And certainly if we hear testimony about why other alignments might be better, we can take that into consideration. But it's something that we have to show you. We talk about the Asian American. I apologize for bringing that up. It's one census block. It's literally one census block that runs the length of the eastern end of the city. That's where that's coming from. So that can't be divided anyway. That's driven by one census block. So, but thank you. If there are any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Kevin?
So I don't want to kill the messenger. But what we're really talking about here is splitting up a community that's literally a patch of green and a sea of concrete. All the other cities you mentioned are not like this city. The reality is the city, there's no way to break it up. The Federal Voting Act says you can't break it up by minorities. You just said we're going to break it up by minorities. And again, you're just the messenger. My recommendation, we may right now be facilitating the end of a lifestyle that's the last of its kind in Southern California. That's our problem. And by the way, it's not the courts. No offense, Justin and you guys, but the truth of the matter is the legislature's doing this to us. My recommendation now is that we send a letter demanding that they do something, help us at least make them aware of what's happening in Little Norco. I suspect we're going to end up trying to fight this somehow. Hopefully we'll have some luck. But I would recommend that the council at least make sure that our elected officials in Sacramento understand what's happening here, even if they can't do anything. The truth of the matter is they have turned a blind eye to this. I love Senator Roth. I will continue to support him, but he's a lawyer and he knows this is wrong. He's a lawyer and he knows what Mr. Shankman's doing. And I demand that Cervantes and Senator Roth help us somehow. At least acknowledge, stand at that podium and say there's nothing we can do. I think they need to understand we're watching the destruction of a community here. You break us up, we literally are not going to be able to stay cohesive. Remember, this was driven by people who weren't getting elected. We're dead bang on that, and that's what's happening. That's why I have no problem doing this in which you have elected officials in certain areas. So my only recommendation at this point is that we do at least try to engage our elected officials. Truthfully, I think we have two very good ones in many ways, but I'm angry about this because this isn't right. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Greg?
Well, my thoughts run akin with Kevin, but at the same time, to prepare for a fight, I think that we still need a workable map. Not knowing what the end result is. So a couple of questions for the demographer, if I may, that, as I had mentioned earlier to you, that, I mean, we should acknowledge that on these maps that they were preliminary drawn so that each one of us have a separate district at this time.
That was one factor we took into account. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So what I had brought up earlier with you is realizing it's self-serving, you know, like for myself, and if I see a situation where a boundary can be moved, okay, that knowing the community, as it's drawn, it won't work. Would I just mark this map up, give it to the city clerk to communicate that to you?
You know, our preference would be that you would give us some general description,
okay,
maybe even specific streets. Let us come back with a map that we generate that answers your request made here, and it's up to the mayor whether he wants to allow anybody to make it or if they require a motion.
Okay, so I brought up the one to you as far as on the green map. As to the northern boundary of District 5, but also the concern on Hamner Avenue of more of the districts sharing Hamner. District 5 takes up a pretty good chunk of Hamner Avenue. But the other part of that is, and I'm just not quite sure how to do it, is Ms. Weber had brought it up, and Ms. Holder at the last meeting, that a community of interest, whether it's the parks and the hills and the schools, how do we encompass that into a map? And that, I think, is the biggest challenge, but I think it's one of the most important ones.
And it's a good question because a lot of communities of interest are based around locations. And that location in any district system is going to end up in one specific district. However, the people who use that facility can be divided between multiple districts. So, for example, this came up in the city of Phoenix, where there's a big shopping center, and the shopping center obviously has to be in a particular district. But if there's two neighborhoods that generally go there to shop, it's a commercial corridor along a particular street, like we're discussing with Hamner, making sure that those two neighborhoods ended up in two separate districts so that more than one representative was going to receive a lot of comments and feedback from people who shop in that center, was the way they handled it. School districts often do it by making sure that attendance areas are divided. They can't divide the school site. That's going to be in one district or one trustee area or another. But they can make sure that students who attend that school have at least 2 board members who have a stake in that school because they have portions of the attendance area. And so that's one of the reasons, that was one of the many considerations for having more elongated districts and why some cities like Pasadena and South Pasadena have done that. To make sure that it's not just like all the people who live along Colorado Boulevard are in one district, all the people who live along Hamner, all the people who live along the equestrian trail, making sure that that California Street equestrian area is the people who use it, the people who own the horses that transverse that trail regularly, are in 2 separate districts so that there's 2 members that have a real direct stake and connection to that.
So then where I get confused with that, and I understand what you're saying, and that all sounds warm and fuzzy, that the whole reason for this exercise is now that you have to equate this to Hispanic or one demographic voting block. And am I understanding this law correctly that way? That we're not worrying about the German Puerto Ricans or the Asians, it's...
Well,
I worry about the Sicilians.
We all worry about
okay.
All right.
So, but it's driven just on that one race. So how do we encompass all these things that are important to us when we don't have that demographic?
I would say, like, and this is really important from a legal standpoint as well. It's not driven. I mean, we can talk about the California Voting Rights Act and the reason that these lawsuits are coming. And that may be more driven by race. When we actually draw in the preparation of districts, we have to show you what that district would look like. That not necessarily maximizes the Latino population, but keeps that neighborhood in South Norco together. But if we're discussing here, and especially if we hear from residents who live in that part of the city, and that especially who are Latino, come from that community and say, this is the boundary that divides 2 different areas, or our community is such that we need 2 different representatives, that's something that we can then use as part of the record we're creating here for looking at alternative boundaries. And this is that's a legal requirement. The communities of interest discussion is one of the many traditional redistricting factors the courts have said are okay, that the state legislature actually put into the election code on the preparation of drawing districts as one of the key factors, and that has no precise definition. Communities of interest vary a lot from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. In our early presentation, we had a whole slide talking about many different ways you could consider communities of interest. And I would say, like, in every city I go to, they're different. And in many cities, they might talk about this community of interest needs to stay together, but this one needs to make sure to have 2 representatives because it's traditionally been underserved, and we want to make sure that it has more representation. And you have a lot of freedom to talk about communities of interest and define what the communities of interest are here. And when I say you, I mean the board. I also mean the public. All the comments about, that I've even just hearing here tonight about the projects going on in different parts of the city, oftentimes that goes directly to different neighborhoods, communities, shared concerns that different parts of the cities have.
Okay, thank you. I would ask, when we get down to Mayor Pro Tem Robin, if you would comment on when the school district did their maps and some of the challenges and some of the comments on, because I don't remember that meeting from years ago. You were much more involved with it. Thank you.
Robin.
Thank you. So I guess just to answer Greg, when the first maps were proposed, Norco was split up. And at that time, I reached out to my elected officials in the city of Norco because I was concerned that looking at the communities that were served by the school district, that Norco already had a small voice, and splitting Norco up would exacerbate that particular issue. And going through the process of drawing the maps, that information was taken into consideration, and I actually think the meeting in Norco with the demographers was one of their most largely attended meetings through the whole series of meetings that they had to take input. So that's just my only experience with this kind of process to this point. As far as speaking to what we have going on here, I'm torn because I'm super excited about the response that we've gotten from the residents. Reading all the emails and the input from residents that we've gotten to this point, this is probably one where we've gotten the most feedback since I've been on council. And everybody is overwhelmingly on the same page. And I love that Norconians are incredibly candid and they just say it like it is. And so that's refreshing, not reading a bunch of fluff and necessarily politically correct statements of input. And we've overwhelmingly received maps where the whole city is circled. So I love that. Love that. So on that side of the coin, I'm really proud of Norco and I'm excited that through everything and all the ups and downs and what we've been through, even just in the short time that I've been on council, that this is one thing that we're united on. And that's really, really exciting to me. When we had a conversation with the demographer on the phone the other day, I think the first thing I told them is how overwhelmingly disappointed I was with the process. We're paying money to go through the process for the maps, and I don't see a lot of deviation or that a whole ton of effort was put into making like two really different maps. I don't think these maps are all that different as far as truly giving the residents some options to look at things that are different. I feel like when we were presented with this information to begin with, communities of interest were hit hard, but then I don't think that was any consideration in these maps that were drawn when we talk about what our communities of interest are in Norco. The other frustrating thing to me is every time somebody comes to present, my assumption is we're paying, and we've seen the same slideshow every single time, except tonight we have the maps. A lot of the people that are in the audience are the same people that have been here the same every time for input, and there's been input every step of the way, and I think our discussions and our presentations should reflect that input. Everybody in here, almost everybody in here, has seen the same slideshow for the third time tonight. And when we're paying for a product, I don't want the same product 3 times when I'm paying 3 separate times. I want something that is worth the money that's being spent on the process. Whether that means at this last meeting, we had this many people speak, and here was the overwhelming consensus of that group, or whatever the case may be, so that as we add new people, we can see that input in the presentation. You know, we have it in our packets. We have copies of the emails from residents, but that's not reflected in the presentations that we've been given. So I'm extremely disappointed from that perspective. I don't think we're getting what we're paying for. And I think overall, Kevin mentioned about our legislators. Quite frankly, they can do something. This is a California law, and they're legislators, and you make laws. Just went through something on the ag teacher side of things, or we were told we couldn't get funded and we couldn't take care of something in the Department of Ed. Found out on January 10th that that's not the case. So I don't take no for an answer when it comes to our representatives. The fact of the matter is, you just talked about, Justin, and not to like be super specific on you, but you just presented some legislation that Assemblymember Cervantes has presented. Why is there not a piece of legislation to protect cities from processes that they don't need to be going through. The fact of the matter is it can be fixed in Sacramento by our legislators. And I don't think that that's a step that's even been looked at. So I agree with Kevin that as our elected representatives, maybe they need to step into the fire a little bit and help us out with this particular issue.
Thank you, Robin. Berwin?
Well, there's not much more to add to what's been said, but I've been very upset with this ever since we were hit with it. I just don't think it's right that some ambulance chaser can come in and demand that we do something that we don't want to do because it's going to totally destroy our lifestyle. This will be the beginning of the end of Horsetown, USA, the animal keeping and all that. When you get it divided and you get a group of residents in one area that's a majority, they can really put enough pressure on there to start voting things out that's very dear to all of us. I know it takes 3 and 4 votes on the council to pass, but there's some people that could probably flow over into the next district and cause a rumble over there to make them change their mind and everything. And I agree that our 2 elected legislatures need to step up to the plate on this one. They can do something up there. They can make enough noise. Kevin and I were up there at the league meeting this year, and there was over 300 of us from different cities stood on the steps of the Capitol building that one morning to fight this legislature they were trying to put in, where they could put cell phone towers in your front yard or anywhere they wanted to, and the cities wouldn't collect any money off of them. Everybody banded together up there. We'd all been in the Capitol building the day before, and that next morning we went out, and it got their attention. That bill was defeated, and I think that this guy brags that he's never been beat. Well, I think there's a chance that he can get beat, because I've been involved in contests my whole life, mainly horse racing and stuff like that, and good horses do get beat. And I think it's time that we stood up and fight this guy, and to an extent. And I hope that Justin, you and Tyler will talk to your bosses and tell them what we said tonight about getting on the ball up there, whether it does any good or not. At least it will show that they do have some concern about our lifestyle down here. And that's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Berwin. A lot of good comments made. And to our elected official, Representative Tyler and Justin, the CVRA has been around since 2003. And it started that way, probably had good intentions. But it was first had to be for cities 100,000 or more. The legislators up there changed it in the last, 4 or 5 years? They changed it. They made it to all cities. So it's back on your responsibility to fix this. Take it back to Sacramento. It wasn't designed for small cities like Tehachapi with 9,000, us sitting here with 7,000 rooftops. It was never designed like that. We handle our measures at the voting, at the ballot. When Robin and I talked to Doug Johnson from the demographer's office, we were concerned about the community interest points. I'm sitting here looking at District 4 with Ingalls Park sitting in it. And yet we're sitting way on the other side in District 3, and they've got Wayne Macon in there. Those are two interests. Those are shared by this city. And it doesn't make any sense. Those are two major focal points. And when you cut it up like this, it's gonna go. I look at District 4, where I live right now. I got no commercial areas. Commercial development is important to us. Yet in my district, I don't get to represent any commercial businesses. And I know that, unfortunately, that's the way these things have to be put together, because they have to balance it out. But this just doesn't make any sense, the way it's done. And we were very disappointed when we talked to him about how it would all work when we were on the phone with him. In a perfect world, it wouldn't matter on districts, because we'd all be going through and working together to keep this city. But this isn't the perfect world. And it's only going to take one, like Berwin said. Next thing you got two. And next thing you know, it starts hurting our lifestyle. And that's what we're all about. Just like that sign says, that sign. It's a lifestyle. That's what more jeopardizes anything else. It's not the fact that if I get moved into a district and I compete against somebody else, so be it. Let the voters determine that. But it's the lifestyle of the city that we protected. It's why we had all those kids in here earlier this evening. We got to make sure they have the same opportunities, and not right now, but it's for 20 or 30 years. So I hope, Justin and Tyler, you take it back to Sacramento, take it back to Roth and to Cervantes, and let them know we're not happy. We have to go through this process, but as Mayor Pro Tem Grimmeyer said, she has seen the city come together, in fact, that we're fed up with it, and we don't want to see this happen in our city. But now as residents, you got to help me out. You got to help us out. We know physically we don't want this. But we have to decide, and when you come up there and decide, if we have to fight this, you have to kind of let us know. It's going to cost. We're already into it for about $55,000, no matter win or lose, whatever we do. And we got $55,000 out, not to mention staff time, which is probably, Andy, probably $5,000 or $6,000 easy or more.
It's a lot of stuff.
A lot of staff time, so you can probably double that number. So think about that. How much can we afford to give this ambulance chaser? I don't know. We got important issues. We got things to do in the city. We pay for it. You know, that's how we have to fight for our lifestyle. But it comes to a point where it's your funds too. So let us know when you send this stuff in, the maps in. Tell your friends, how much can we afford? And that's something we have to think about. And John, before I close this out, have we heard anything from the federal case?
No, the Poway case, the hearing is theoretically tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. So,
Ted,
just give
just a couple more things. Marietta also, one of the Marietta councilmen, if maybe John could call the city attorney because they're trying to wage something there, and maybe if you wouldn't mind. According to one of the city manager or the city council members, they're in the process of doing something that they're not telling anybody about. Maybe you can get some insight from the city. All right, that's all right. And just a couple of other things that Robin opened the door to something that is really, really important. One of the things that, and I was going to send the guy an email. You said the streets that might have trails on them. Part of the problem is that she's absolutely right. We thought that they would be driving around. What you're going to discover is the entire city has an interest that binds it together. And I think that sooner than later, I think somebody needs to come out because we only have 90 days. And so somebody needs to come out and drive with them. And I think you will find it very illuminating to understand that there's a trail on just about every street in the city of Norco. The other thing I demand, I'm gonna ask first. I would like to see Assemblywoman Cervantes and I would like to see Senator Roth at this podium and talk to us, because it's inexcusable. If we're going to go through this, we're going to go through it with our elected officials. And finally, the way the city will be broke up, One of the things, and Berwyn knows this better than anybody, is that we're constantly under attack by developers. They want our large lots. And the way it'll work is you will get one person elected over here who just thinks, yeah, I just want a big accessory building here. And I just, they don't realize they're playing a dangerous game. Then next door, they get 3 council people, use a lot of money, and it's really a developer behind it that you begin cutting up your properties. That's how the city of Norco will go down. Eventually, developers will get people elected that will take the city down. And you cut us up. How do you stop it? So anyway, I just wanted to sort of invite Assemblyman Cervantes and invite Senator Roth. I want them to hear this because I think that they're removed from it. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin. Andy, any more on this? Okay, John, any more? Cheryl, remind them of the meeting. Okay, just to let you know that the next public hearing for this issue are going to be on Wednesday, January 24th. That's at 7 p.m. and that's at Nellie Weaver Hall, not here. Nellie Weaver Hall. So again, that's next Wednesday, January 24th. At 7 p.m. at Nellie Weaver Hall. Let your friends know. It's not a normal council meeting. It's a special council meeting. It will deal with this, and the agenda basically will handle this and one other item. With that, move on to, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, because like we normally do, and we move to 5B before we go to 5B. Thank you. All right, we're going to resume this. Thank you. All right, 5B. That would be Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is a zone code amendment with regards to some input that the City Council gave on the update report to the new accessory building regulations that were adopted by the City Council. Is just for background summary for the audience, there was an ad hoc committee that went through several months of input on regulations that should be adopted to increase the review and the review process to make sure that accessory buildings were being reviewed adequately. And after several months, there were several items that were adopted into the Norco Municipal Code and into our 2 residential specific plans, Norco Ridge Ranch and Norco Hills. And one of the requests when those adoptions were made was that there be a follow-up report on the status of the new regulations. And that came to the City Council in October of last year. And from that was presented the issues that have been presented to planning staff and questions that have been presented regarding the new regulations and suggestions on some of the regulations that could be changed. And I won't go through everything that was listed. Out of all the regulations, or out of all the suggestions, the 3 things that the City Council decided that should be amended were regarding a minimum size that would not have to go to the Planning Commission for review, and that was set at 240 square feet. The second one was that the regulation limiting restrooms to 50 square feet maximum should be changed to 50 square feet minimum, and that the noticing requirement for when an item goes to the Planning Commission be expanded so that it gets to at least 25 properties. 300 feet is the standard, but if you don't get to 25 properties, then you have to keep going out until you get to 25 properties. These were presented to the Planning Commission on December 13th, and Planning Commission was unanimous in their recommendation of approval. The attached ordinance reflects what was approved by the Planning Commission in their resolution recommending approval. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation and answer any questions.
Council have a question of staff. Berwyn?
No.
Okay, Robin?
No.
Greg?
Yeah. Steve?
Yeah.
How has this been working overall with new applications lately?
You know, it's actually working very well. There has been a decrease in the number of applications, but the ones that are want to go forward have complied with all of the regulations, and so far the ones that have been reviewed by the Planning Commission have all gone very smoothly without conflict at the Planning Commission. So, so far it's going well.
Good. Thank you.
One thing, Steve, where you put the change with accessory buildings that are 240 feet or smaller and now higher than 14 feet are exempt from having to review by the Planning Commission prior to the issuance of a building under that. Your staff is very prepared in that. You've let them know about that if this gets approved?
Yes.
So we don't have nothing slipping through the channels, nothing like that, right?
No. Yeah.
Okay, they're on tune. Okay. With that being in mind, I'll bring back, open the public hearing. Cheryl, any cards?
No cards on this item.
No, I'll close the public hearing. Berwin, you didn't have any cards. You want to say anything?
I'll move to approve.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Norco approving Zone Code Amendment 2017-03, amending Chapter 18.68 of Title 18, accessory building use permits, with other amendments to cross-references in Title 18 as needed. Zone Code Amendment 2017-03.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Please vote. That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to 6. City Council, City Manager, Staff, Communications. I'm going to start that off real quick, normally if I can. Recently, I was informed and by 2 groups, especially the fair, that there would not be a Labor Day parade this year. And because of that, that's 75 years of historic community event that we have had in this town. And then also the Horse Week Parade follows suit, and that's 50 years of historic event. What I would like to do is agendize for the next council meeting to staff, and I know we're going to have a meeting with Mayor Pro Tem Gerrymandering and I are meeting with the Horse Week people here next week, reference their contract with the city. And I know, Brian, you're starting to work with them on the parades, but I would like this item to be agendized for next month meeting so we can discuss if we have to fund it or how we have to do this for future, if you think you can staff it out. Does that make sense, Andy? I would like to see for all parades at this point, to see if we're going to do something, let's see what we can do for all parades or for these events.
We also are coordinating a meeting, I believe it's next Thursday, with the 3 parade chair people to discuss the item. And I think I've added both you and Councilman Gerrymandering to that discussion.
And if I have to make it agendized for each parade as a separate item, we can do that too, if that's what it means. So we can handle them separately if we want to handle it cleanly.
I want to have this agenda discussion prior to the meetings or after the meetings? There's one meeting next week, and then
yeah, let's make it after we have our meetings. What can I get a?
Okay, motion and a second to agendize. Please vote.
Dummy.
That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Andy, anything?
Nothing, but I think the city clerk, we have a town hall meeting coming up.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council, we have the next quarterly town hall meeting on Monday, January 22nd at Nellie Weaver Hall, beginning at 6:30 p.m. It's hosted by the Norco Horsemen's Association. We have a very full agenda, so I really encourage the public to attend. A lot of important topics that will be discussed. We have legislative updates from Senator Roth's office and Assemblymember Sabrina Cervantes' office. We will have a presentation on the I-15 Express Lanes project from RCTC. Southern California Edison will be given a presentation on power outage preparedness for residents. And WRCOG, that's Western Riverside Council of Governments, will give a presentation on the Community Choice Aggregation Program. Councilmember Bash will be giving a brief update on City Council actions in the last 3 months and future events. I will be giving an update on district-based elections, and our Public Works Director will give an update on the Hamner Avenue Bridge project. So quite a bit of important information for the public.
A full house. Robin, anything? Berwin?
No, sir.
Let me go back to Kevin.
So the first parade was in 1948. Does that make it the 70th year this year, or was this last year the 70th year? I always get confused. 1948 was the first parade.
It was a long time.
A long time ago. Okay. But if it's the 70th, we might be able to say, hey, 70 years. SB 35, I'm confused about, and I'm wondering, Andy, if we could agendize talking about SB 35, or if you could get us information on SB 35 and how it will truly affect us.
Yeah, actually, the planning director and myself are working to provide a synopsis of all the housing legislations that passed during this past state legislature session. And we'll provide that summary information to City Council.
And then second of all, I'd like to purchase 6,582 covered wagons to put them around Norco. I want to play cowboys and legislators.
Okay, all right.
That's all.
I think that's way beyond our CIP budget. Okay. Greg, anything?
Yeah, a couple items. I talked to John about this first one briefly. Andy, could you give council a report or a follow-up on the Snow property on Crestview Avenue, and basically in regards to, I think I sent you a copy of the email from them, trying to push flood control?
I thought nothing has changed since we issued the last report.
Yeah,
following the meeting we had with the flood control district, there was a report that was shared with the City Council in terms of the outcome and the steps that the flood control channel is.
Right, and I guess I'm just taking this with the conversation I had with John, was that what can we do to goose them along a little bit?
They've indicated their timeline.
But you don't have to give the report now. It's just, can you prepare a letter for us or a staff report?
Sure, we can do that.
Didn't the snows?
Yes.
It was copied to them, yeah. They got
it. Yeah, they've committed to building and starting in June.
Okay. Well, this was an email that I forwarded to Andy a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So just a follow-up for us, please. So the second item, it's starting to trouble me. I don't want to paraphrase President Trump, so I won't, okay? But I'll let you read between those lines. And this has to do with trash in the right-of-ways, okay? I know we have the app for residents to use, but we need to come up with something better. I've just been watching this one, that 5th Street, from Public Works on Valley View to Corona Avenue. There's been a recliner sitting in the right-of-way for about 3 weeks now, and pallets a little further down to Public Works and Parks and Rec like pallets that are stacked up in front of drainage structures. I'm not bagging on the guys in the field, but you run enough trucks up and down these streets that we need to give our guys direction. Stop, pick it up and take it to the yard. We can't rely on residents and council members to keep putting things on the app to notify you. So I would like staff to develop some kind of program and bring it back to council on, we got crap all over the place. You see knockdown horse trail fencing, stop, pick it up, throw it in the back of your truck. What can we do to motivate our employees to do something about cleaning it up? Now, I know somebody will get that recliner tomorrow, but I don't know, Berwin spends a lot of time, and on that well, it sat out in the rain, so I know it's not going to his house, but because he's already furnished it, but
scattered all over town.
Yeah.
It's been there, rain, the dust, and everything.
But I think, Brian, your guys are good, but we need to develop some guidelines for our employees. You're the ones out there on the streets. You motivate them to, stop, pick up the mattress and the TV.
In that type of recommendation or program, also provide for the repeat homes, because there are certain ones who are repeaters. That becomes code enforcement action also?
Well, here's the problem, and Andy won't support me on this, is that when they throw the mattresses out in the right-of-way in front of their house, I believe you ought to be stopping and throwing it back in their front yard, okay? And I can't get support for that. But then we're jerking around with code enforcement. Yeah, okay, I'll go write a citation and I'll do this.
It's just that we have a few properties that are in certain neighborhoods that are really bad at doing that.
Yeah.
Over and over and over.
Well, if you need my permission, I'd throw it back in their front yard, okay? And then send code enforcement out, but at least pick it up and then have code follow up with it. But we need to open our eyes.
You got your direction, Chad? Okay. Got it, Greg?
I just wonder how long that recliner is going to be out there. Thank you,
Has to be a
Ted.
big screen. All right. Thanks, Greg. Matt, anything?
Sir?
Chad? Steve? Brian? Gina?
Yes, two items. One is in the month of February, we'll be bringing forward to you a proposal to refund another bond for 97-1 Norco Hills. And it's going to be a private placement of, Andy, if you don't mind, I can mention the potential savings of up to $314, average annual savings per parcel.
Good.
And since it's a private placement, it's being held for us at this time. So it'll be brought forward for your approval and review next month.
Great.
And then finally, I just want to say right now that one of my big goals was disaster preparedness, and it has to do with our financial system. We are officially in the cloud. You will be receiving your very first paycheck delivered from the cloud this week. And the team did an amazing job. As you can imagine, shortened weeks, Mondays. It's wonderful to have the holiday, but it really doubles up the week with utility billing and everything. And our team came together during the holidays and worked extra to verify all the data, to verify processes. And I just want to thank Matt Boudreau, who we couldn't have done it without him. There's one thing to look at the numbers on one side and work with the team with New World Tire Alert that we had, but he is basically was able to make it all communicate, and we could not have done it without him. This month, as you know, is W-2s, 1099s, everything is going on, and I have to say it's seamless, and I think we only have a few ankle biters left, and he's going to enjoy his birthday this weekend. But I just want to thank him and your support as well for this project. And it's the beginning of developing more items with our financial system. And you'll hear more from Chad, and we'll be back in the future with more items for you. So I just want to thank you for your support.
Mr. Mayor, we get a paycheck?
Yeah, from the cloud.
Cloud, I was going to say it's going to drift on in. Gina, in that, the water billing, is that coming down around soon?
The water app?
Yeah.
Yes.
So people can do that. That's going to be pretty soon?
Yes.
I can check.
I would say, like I said, we're juggling with several. We've got Lucidity work orders, and we've got this. This is a high priority as well. And I think once we get some things done and the team settles a bit, we're going to be trained on it and have a beta group as well. We have an individual here previously who mentioned some interest in it. We're going to use him, and it'll be another team effort. Kelly Newton will be helping us with the look and feel of the app, and just make sure it's seamless.
Okay. Good. It was just a resident asked me about it, so that was good.
And you'll also have it available on your phone, so you can be part of the beta group as well.
I just want to use my phone as a phone. Scott, anything? You guys did an excellent job, by the way, over the holiday season, things like that. Really appreciate all the work they do. And I know a lot of it's just sitting around, but most of it isn't. I mean, you know what I'm saying? When you bust your butt, you bust your butt, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
We got 1 minute until 10 o'clock.
I'll be 1 minute. I got Eric. He's last.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I owe you an after-action report regarding our New Year's Eve fireworks enforcement. Several months ago, we started our campaign, our educational campaign, to notify the public, the citizens of Norco, that we were taking a zero-tolerance stance towards fireworks in the city of Norco. And I don't have to explain this, but I know it's important that we talk about it. It's to maintain our quality of life, but also maintain the sanity of our animals and look after their welfare as well. So with the support of the mayor and city council, as well as city staff from animal control and code enforcement, we were working on our actual enforcement campaign after we did the education. And I should explain, the education was very intensive. Water billers, notifications, social media through different platforms with social media, signage placed at key locations throughout the city thanks to fire, and Brian and his crew for helping us with this. So it was really an all-hands approach, and we face this every time we have the fireworks holidays, 4th of July and New Year's Eve. So the enforcement, what we do is we put together this team. We meet about 7 o'clock on New Year's Eve, and we go over our operational planning and how we're going to deploy. So it was, I was there. It was our set team deputies, our 2 set team deputies, a sergeant, and we had animal control and code enforcement with us. And we split amongst the city, and obviously our goal was to look for and identify fireworks locations to basically handle the enforcement. And I can tell you that at 12 o'clock, a lot of fireworks went off at the same time. And I've noted this before, there's a lot of challenges with fireworks enforcement. A lot of people play with the fireworks in their backyards, so it makes it very, very difficult to locate. And once it's in the air, it's hard to find out or basically track the trail back to where the locations were. However, we did work with our citizens. They gave us 14 calls for service pertaining to the fireworks activities. Out of those 14 calls for service, we issued 3 citations. One citation was for $2,000 for the more dangerous fireworks. The other 2 were for $1,000 for the safe and sane. Those locations for those citations was one in Norco Hills area. There was one near Mountain in 2nd and another near Hamner in 3rd for a total of 3. So we discussed the after-action report. We look at the challenges and how we can work on addressing those issues for the next time. Again, it's just boots on the ground, and quite frankly, it's luck in finding where these locations occur. We will continue to work with the citizens and the public, because I think our biggest success will be just by self-policing, and hopefully we can look towards reducing over the years as we continue this enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a generational thing. It's going to take a while to change. Kevin, do you want to?
The mayor asked me to talk a little bit about Tony Smith. Tony Smith, I first met him when he was an assistant pastor at a little church on the hill years ago. He lost his battle with cancer suddenly. As some of you know, he lost his daughter just a couple of years ago. But Tony was a big, bare, burly man who I sat through many a football game with. And I'm going to really, really miss him. He was a good guy. And he coached football for how many years? 30 years or something. I think he played 6 months on a pro team, and just a good guy. And like I said, I'm going to miss him.
So with that, we're going to close the meeting in his name. Bow your head, please. And this meeting is adjourned.